The continuing fight for social justice is leading many Americans to try and better understand our nation's often painful past. It is also giving new life to community efforts to preserve Black cemeteries. I'm really excited about this story. Congress is considering legislation that would create a database of burial sites and provide funding to research and protect them. This could bolster cemetery restoration projects across the country, including one from CBS News producer Rodney Hawkins, who we know and love. He is embarking on a journey to reclaim his family legacy.
Deep in the piney woods of East Texas, beneath this roughly 200-year-old overgrown cemetery is my family history and a part of America's buried past.
I had to work the fields just like everybody else. I had to pick cotton.
You didn't grow up during slavery. Why were you picking cotton?
Well, my dad, that was part of what he did to make a living for the family.
Curlin Curl Hurd, or as I call her, Granny, was born in 1946 on a sharecropping farm. Her parents, Mitch and Ova Curl, raised 12 children in this tiny house in Nacogdoches, the oldest city in Texas, on their more than 100 acres. We still own most of the land.
What would you think your parents would think of us, their legacy, coming back and still appreciating this?
You know what? I think they would be so proud.
Not far from our property, we found our family cemetery in disarray.
It's tragic to see this cemetery in this state. As painful as it can be to uncover the past, it's important my ancestors, our ancestors, are honored.
It needs a lot of work.
My cousins, Rayford and Nell Coleman, want to make sure that happens.
I've been through chemo, radiation. In 2016, I had a stroke. Death has hit me right in the face. We all need to think about how we want our family to not forget us.
What goes through your mind thinking that possibly the legacy of this cemetery may have been forgotten?
That's why I'm talking to you, Rodney. You're the young generation, and my kids, we have to make them aware of the history before us.
That importance is not lost on me, particularly this year as a journalist, revisiting the 1921 race massacre and covering stories of heartbreaking loss. We had to reclaim this cemetery to not lose our history. The state officially registered Old Mount Gilead this summer with the help of Archie Rison.
It's ugly history, but it's necessary that we talk about it.
He's devoted his retirement to restoring historically Black cemeteries.
Why are you getting emotional?
I'm connecting myself to my past. A lot of people, a lot of Black folks can't do that. And some, they tell me, my friends, they don't want to.
He says some want to forget the pain and shame of this country's past.
When slaves were freed, they knew the pains that our ancestors went through. And the biggest thing on their minds was survival.
Rison introduced me to Perky Beisel.
We don't have marble like this in Texas.
A history professor at Stephen F. Austin University who works with the Texas Historical Commission to preserve cemeteries.
It's going to soak up the water.
Beisel and her students joined us to start the restoration, a year-long project.
This was well done.
She says this simple tombstone from my great-great-grandfather, Bill Curl, whose parents were enslaved, has great significance.
So this says more than at rest with all the symbols that are around it.
This is a true sign to anybody walking by. This is an important person.
That importance hit my granny.
We're just, well, a little emotional.
Every Memorial Day, they cleaned up the cemetery. But she hadn't been back here in over 40 years.
And you don't think that when you're growing up, the value of what your parents are teaching you until now, you look back and it was wonderful.
Now that you're able to reflect and see what all they had
Yes.
and the little that they made
Yes.
out of nothing.
We're restoring this old cemetery
Thank you so much.
to show gratitude to those that came before us.
Oh, and it has a name.
Oh my God.
As we unravel their history, waiting just beneath the surface. For CBS This Morning, Rodney Hawkins, Nacogdoches, Texas.
Wow. Well done, Rodney Hawkins. And to hear him say, or when he was asking his relative, why are you getting so emotional? I'm connecting myself to my past. And a lot of people, a lot of Black people in particular, can't always do that.
Right. It's so important that he's doing this work, honoring our ancestors. And Rodney is a colleague and friend of all of ours.
Yes.
We're so proud of him.
We
What an
are.
incredible piece. I spoke to him last night. He said that he has leads on who the descendants of his ancestors' slave owners might be.
That's
Who
awesome.
are living right now. So definitely more to come to this story, I'm sure.
First of all, well told.
Yes.
And second of all, I hope this inspires other people, Rodney, thanks to your story, to go look into their family's past as well.
I think it will. Look forward to seeing more of that. On today's CBS This Morning podcast, you could hear more of that by going to this podcast and hear from Rodney about his journey and what led him to share his family story.